I'm Maureen Crowley. I'm coordinator of the Embankment Coalition. The coalition's an all-volunteer nonprofit that spearheaded efforts to reuse the historic Harsmus Branch rail line in downtown Jersey City for light rail trail and open space. Since 2004, we've partnered with the East Coast Greenway Alliance to bring the Maine to Florida Trail off-road here from the Hudson River to the Hackensack. The Bergen Arches Coalition has picked up this baton, and they're focusing on the Bergen Arches segment of this trail. Now the statewide New Jersey Bike and Walk Coalition, the Open Space Institute, and the September 11th National Memorial Trail are partnering to bring the old Boonton rail line from Montclair to Jersey City back into service as a trail, the Essex-Hudson Greenway. The endpoint in Jersey City is near the Hackensack, and when it is further connected through the Bergen Arches to the Harsmus Branch, the East Coast Greenway can be completely off-road through Hudson County. I like to envision the meeting of these two efforts, west and east, to meet in a sort of Golden Spike celebration, like the one in 1869 when the transcontinental railroad companies who started in different places met and drove the Golden Spike that where the two rail lines that they were building met. Since we're environmental organizations, when that happens for us, I think we should plant a green tree. Since the Embankment Coalition organized, we've seen a local flowering of environmental organizations. Among these are co-sponsors of this event. They include the Jersey City Parks Coalition, several of its member parks, Kenco Park Conservancy, Skyway Park Conservancy, Bergen Hill Park, as well as Greener JC, Hudson County Sierra Club, and Sustainability JC. We look to each other for inspiration and for the collaborative efforts that are needed if we are to help restore our environment. Now I would like to introduce Deb Kagan, Executive Director of New Jersey Bike and Walk. She'll tell us about the Essex-Hudson Greenway. Other people here tonight are available if needed to answer questions during the Q&A period, including Lauren Rushing of the New Jersey Bike and Walk Coalition, Stephen Gucciardo and Sean Gallagher from the Embankment Coalition, Rahid Cornejo from the Bergen Arches Group, and Bruce Donald, the Tri-State Regional Coordinator for the East Coast Greenway Alliance. So once again, please stay muted and use the chat function to ask questions directed to everyone. And at the end, Lauren is going to facilitate the question and answer section. Thank you, and let's proceed. Deb?
Yep, thank you, Maureen, and thank you for hosting us and for all the co-hosts who have brought this meeting together tonight. We really appreciate your time. I'm going to assume that the presentation, although I know some of you have seen at least some of this presentation in the past, we're going to give you a general overview of what the Essex-Hudson Greenway project is about, as well as talk about the benefits of greenways in general, and end with what the current status is of the project. So as Maureen mentioned, the team that's heading this up is composed of three partners. The New Jersey Bike and Walk Coalition, of which I'm the director, is the only statewide advocacy organization for bicyclists and pedestrians, and provides a collective voice for everyone who believes that a more rideable and walkable New Jersey means a more livable, equitable, and sustainable New Jersey. Our partner in the Open Space Institute is a national conservation leader, and the Open Space Institute is leading the transaction, legal and the due diligence work that has been going on for the last couple of years to prepare this project for acquisition by Essex and Hudson counties. And the September 11th National Memorial Trail is a 1,300-mile system of trails and roadways that links the various memorials from September 11th, and is a route that is really about a symbol of resiliency and character, and a tribute, of course, to the fallen heroes who perished on September 11th. So this project has been a dream of the region and many advocates along this corridor since the Norfolk Southern Railroad stopped using it for commercial and for freight. So it stopped use around 2002. And since then, people in the 8 towns that are along the line have been really dreaming about what kind of vision this could be, what kind of a transformational project this would be for the region. So along between 2002 and about 2014, various towns passed resolutions of support to make this corridor a greenway. There were many nonprofit advocacy organizations that brought together people to advocate for this. But the Norfolk Southern Railroad was not really interested in selling the right-of-way. From 2014 to about 2018, the New Jersey Bike and Walk Coalition pulled together a lot of this support, and with the support of the 9/11 National Memorial Trail, contacted Norfolk Southern and began conversations that they, in fact, were interested suddenly to sell the line. And we brought on the Open Space Institute to handle the transaction. Railroad, those of you who have ever done this before, know that railroad transactions are very complex. They involve the federal government and a lot of legal work as well as a lot of environmental work. So the Open Space Institute has reached an agreement with Norfolk Southern. It was announced this past year in last year now, 2020. It was an agreement to purchase the entire line intact from Montclair to Jersey City. And this now gives us really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make sure that we keep this property intact to create a greenway. This is a map that shows the corridor between Jersey City and Montclair, and some of the main highlights you can see in those bubbles. Of course, this is utility historic infrastructure going over the Meadowlands area. Again, the Meadowlands, the salt marshes around Kearney. This is the Tiffany building in Newark. And of course, everybody will recognize the cherry blossoms from Branch Brook. And this is a historic rail station, the Benson Street Station in Glen Ridge. So there are 8 towns that it goes through: Montclair, Glen Ridge, Bloomfield, Bellevue, the top of Newark, across Kearney, across the Kearney Marsh, across the Meadowlands, lands here in Secaucus at Laurel Hill Park, and then continues on to Jersey City. And we have some close-ups where we'll show you in a little while where it actually comes into Jersey City. So it's actually 8.6 miles for the whole thing, and of course goes across the 2 counties of Essex and Hudson. Here's some basic facts about this corridor. All rail trails and corridors are very unique and different. This is a particularly interesting corridor as it spans both the suburban western suburbs and a couple of the major cities in New Jersey. It would create 135 acres of new green space to over 500,000 residents, and that's within a 1.5 mile radius. That's in these 2 counties, which are 2 of the most densely populated counties in the country, this is an amazing opportunity for green space that's very difficult to find. And there isn't anything like this that goes between these two counties existing now. It would provide active transportation alternatives from driving a car for what's approximately 300,000 commuters back and forth between this area. It has the potential for environmental designs that can capture runoff, that can mitigate flooding, and that also can preserve natural habitat as well. So in addition to the top of this line, the agreement also includes the subterranean rights underneath the line, which would allow us to provide internet infrastructure, like possibly 5G, all the way along the corridor to communities that don't have some of this in their schools, in their businesses, in their communities. And it just gives a lot of opportunity for other things, including emergency communications, and would ease the ability to carry out security and safety measures across the line. The trail goes through linking to a number of through regional trails. Maureen has already mentioned the East Coast Greenway, and we have some maps. Thank you very much, Bruce, for providing us with a map. Well, I'll show you in a little bit of where the East Coast Greenway would reroute using this corridor. The 9/11 National Memorial Trail also crosses it, as well as the Morris Canal. The general width of the corridor is about 100 feet for most of the right-of-way. And that's a really wide area, which allows us to be able to design a lot of different things. And we'll show you some vision renderings that gives us some idea of what the possibilities might be. This corridor really addresses a number of benefits that are real issues for our region. One of those being health, the ability to have access to open green space for walking and biking for essential recreation is really difficult to find in a lot of towns along this corridor, particularly in the more urban areas. There are, this would allow not only a green space for walking, but a connectivity to other parks that are along the corridor in different towns. And of course, we've seen in the past year how important and essential this kind of exercise and access to green spaces for our mental and physical health. In addition to providing safe walking and biking options, it also addresses the issue of affordable mobility. So this would be a commuting corridor where you could ride your bike not only within your town, but all the way from Jersey City to Montclair and back. It provides active transportation for people who don't own a car, or who may not want to take transit, or who don't have access to transit. And what we've seen, of course, across the country is when this kind of access is provided, more and more people start using it. So not only commuting to work, but commuting to shops, to center of town, to schools, and to work. It gives a safer off-road alternative for people who are more vulnerable street users, including people who are older or elderly and kids. And it gives increased accessibility for people who are disabled. So you're on a wheelchair. It can be very difficult to navigate streets. This is a safe off-road access to a lot of the towns. It's also been shown across the country that the development of these rail trails bring local economic development to the business districts. So new businesses brings in tourists, brings in new people. People want to get off their bikes, have a coffee, get a sandwich, rent a bike, walk to the business district. So it it will help to catalyze a lot of local economic development in towns. And there's lots of examples in many of the major trails where this has brought in millions of dollars of revenue to major cities. I mean millions. It also increases the housing value and demand for housing along the line. There's statistics that show anywhere from about 4% to 20% increase and an average nationally in housing values. Oh, and this is a nice little bit about the amount of money. So for every dollar that's invested, this is from a study that was done in North Carolina. For every dollar that was invested in a one-time trail construction, it generated $1.72. So the capital investment that would be now goes on continually, annually, to bring in more revenue to communities. So of course we want to talk about the environment and sustainability, especially with the group we have tonight. I know you're all advocates of sustainability in New Jersey, and we look at this project as really representing the future of sustainability in New Jersey. By providing this corridor, it also protects natural wildlife. It's a continuous corridor, so it gives that continuous access for wildlife. It gives us the opportunity to protect and preserve the natural habitats that are along it, and there are a number of them. It gives us options, because the right-of-way is wide enough, to have bioswales and rain gardens to mitigate flooding, as well as natural habitat. And as I mentioned before, the access to subterranean rights gives us the option to have combined stormwater overflow infrastructure to store some of that overflow, which is a major issue, particularly in the communities that are in the most eastern part of the corridor, including Jersey City, Newark, and Kearny. And where there isn't tree coverage now, particularly in the urban sections, one section being in the middle of Newark, it gives us the opportunity to have plant trees and to create tree cover, which of course reduces the heat island effect. And having this access to active transportation overall can reduce car usage in the region, which of course reduces not only traffic congestion, but also air pollution. This is just a sense of the variety of landscape and wildlife that are across this. So there's several regions of different types of landscape. We've got upland woodlands with more tree coverage. We've got very urban industrial sections. There's the water over the marsh, and the meadowlands provides this incredible natural space with beautiful views over the meadowlands. And then we've got this mixed area coming into Jersey City over the meadowlands and some of the industrial structures that are there. And here's some of the wonderful species, of course, that can be found in different areas along the corridor. This map gives you a sense of the access to parks across the way and the open space. Here are some of the major. Of course, this here is Branch Brook Park leading up to Bellevue. So it comes really across the top of Branch Brook, where in fact there's a connection to several through trails here, including the Lenape, then the Morris Canal. And of course, the Meadowlands area and Laurel Hill Park. So this really gives access to the Meadowlands, both from Jersey City and from Newark. That's been very difficult to get to. There are some beautiful trails if anybody's been through them. I went recently, and the one in the Meadowlands. It's just some gorgeous landscape and scenery and natural open space there. give you a sense, these white dots are where the corridor is at grade level. So the railroad runs fairly flat, but of course the land goes up and down. So in some cases, the rail line is below the banks, and sometimes it's above the side banks. And these are where it actually is at a street level. So those would make natural access points probably going forward. This is a drawing to just give a sense of what it would look like going across the Meadowlands. There's I-95, Kearney here. This is headed towards Jersey City across the Meadowlands here. And these little icons are just an idea of the sort of user experience that could be had on this greenway. So not only does it connect different communities, but there's all kinds of historic infrastructure. There's potential to have artwork. And of course, the most example, whoops, sorry, that's my jittery mouse hanging out. Here we go. So I know people are probably familiar with the High Line and the way they have incorporated art across that whole corridor. This is a wide enough corridor to have those kind of amenities. Whoopsie, sorry. Certainly biking path, certainly walking path, people running, rolling on skateboards. It gives access to places for nature viewing, for bird watching, for essential exercise, for fishing, for just being in a more natural open space along it. And of course, places to hang out and see some wildlife. Would give access to a lot of schools. Sorry about that. The sort of the little dark green dots are the number of schools that are in the area. And this blow up, of course, is the number of schools that are in Jersey City. That would be within, the lighter green is within a mile, and the little darker green circle is within a quarter mile. And this is the gateway area for Jersey, where the corridor comes in Jersey City. As I mentioned, most of the width of the corridor is 100 feet, but there are areas where it's wider. And one of those areas is where it comes into Jersey City. So there's actually a very wide section right before it terminates at Van Kuren. And the little bubbles you can see are what I was describing before, where sometimes the rail line is below grade and sometimes it's above grade, and sometimes it's at grade level. So you get a sense of that different topography that's all the way along the different towns. So in addition to the diversity of wildlife and topography and ecology that we have along it, we also have a diversity of people. A lot of the communities, it really is sort of a mini representation of the state of New Jersey and the different diverse communities that we have. This particular map is showing communities where language other than English is spoken at home. And of course, in the Jersey City section, that's between 50 and 75% of homes have a language other than English spoken at home. So this gives you sort of a sense of one of the ways that these communities can be connected throughout the different towns. It also reminds us that it goes across a number of communities of color, and access to open space and access to active transportation are real equity mobility issues that this corridor would help address. This map shows the connections to the trail network. So there's really a number of different through trails, including the East Coast Greenway that connect exactly to this corridor. Right now, this is the East Coast Greenway. We'll show another map of that. This is the 9/11 trail and the Morris Canal, which goes here. So you can see where they all would intersect, giving this incredible network of trails. And there's, of course, we'll show you some close-ups, the Bergen Arches and the embankment also in Jersey City. Here we go. Here we go. Here is the version of the East Coast Greenway. I know, Bruce, you might want to talk later a little bit more about this if people have questions. There was a route study done earlier in 2000, I think it was 7 or earlier maybe, but the latest update was 2017, and people did get a chance to talk about what they thought was the preferred route for the East Coast Greenway, and most of them picked the Essex-Hudson Greenway. So this would, as Maureen mentioned earlier, give an off-street route for the Essex-Hudson Greenway, coming off the Hudson and going all the way across till it hits Branchbrook Park. Here, where the Essex-Hudson Greenway continues, and the Morris Canal and the September 11th National Memorial Trail would connect over here. This is a slide that's a close-up of where the Greenway comes into Jersey City and where it is in relationship to the Bergen Arches. And thank you for the Bergen Arches Coalition, Preservation Coalition, for providing us with this map. Here you can see this blue line is the Essex-Hudson, where it comes in. This is Van Kuren here. These are active rail lines. And this red here is the Bergen Arches. So getting across here is going to be an interesting challenge, but it's sort of that one of those last mile issues of connectivity that we will all need to think about how to do that. Again, here's where the corridor comes in to Jersey City, up here at Laurel Park, across this area, and then scoots down in front of the power station here to Van Kuren, as you can see, where it ends. Just another view of that. And here's the view of it connecting to the Haramis and 6th Street Embankment across to the Hudson. So this is the vision that we're all talking about, having this connectivity of these 3 projects would bring continuous connectivity from the Hudson River all the way to Montclair. There's also a lot of connectivity with the existing transportation network. I don't know if you can see this, but the purple lines and the dots, which are all these here, right, in Jersey City here, are the bus routes. So there's a lot that's very nearby, and these are bike lanes. The red little dots or dashes. And again, here's the Essex-Hudson Greenway coming in and the existing active rail lines here. We did have conversations with the transportation department in Jersey City. So the Essex-Hudson Greenway was in fact considered and part of the bike network master plan that did get passed. And you can see it here was being considered how it would fit in with the overall bike network for Jersey City. These are vision renderings. Now, at this point, there is no design that has been determined. We haven't gotten to that stage yet, but these drawings are really to give us a sense of what's possible to think about. So eventually, when this is actually acquired, and we'll talk about the status of that in a minute, we will go through a design phase that will have input from the community. So this is a beginning of that process where we think about and have some drawings, what this could look like, what the possibilities are. And this one shows us some natural habitat and a possible rain garden here. This is about a 16-foot pathway that would be for biking and walking and rolling. It gives enough room even here with the heavy wooded coverage to have places to sit for community gathering, for programming, for art, for lots of other amenities that different towns may determine they want for their section. And this is like a call box idea. This view is probably from Glen Ridge, maybe going into Montclair. Oops. This is a view of the more urban area in central North Newark. This tower up here, you can see it is the Tiffany Tower. If anybody knows that building, you can get a sense of where this is. Right now, this is all asphalt. It's got chain link fences and it's got storage from nearby trucks and different businesses. And this is a vision of what it could look like. And again, there's space for all kinds of natural areas and rain gardens, plenty of places for people to bike, to walk, to hang out, and just a use becomes a park for a local community as well as a place to commute from one to the other. This is another vision drawing going over the meadowlands, and you can see that this would give access to all kinds of recreation that now are pretty difficult to get to. So it could not only expand the recreation options, especially for people between Newark and Jersey City, but also the habitat. It can restore natural habitat in this area, incorporate some of the historic infrastructure, as well as, again, have enough space for the paths for walking and biking. And this is another example of a bioswale in the area. The project status right now is, as I mentioned before, the Open Space Institute has negotiated a purchase and sale agreement with the railroad, Norfolk Southern. Norfolk Southern, the railroad, has secured what's called official abandonment status from the federal government. So a railroad, when it wants to stop being a railroad, has to get permission from the federal government. It's a national utility, and there's all kinds of procedures and legal things that have to go on in order for them to do that. And they apply for what's called the official abandonment status. The Surface Transportation Board has to approve of that application. And in this case, the Surface Transportation Board has approved of it. So Norfolk Southern has official abandonment status, meaning that right now they can sell any piece of this corridor if the current purchase and sale agreement with Norfolk Southern does not get completed within a certain time frame. And what's been happening in this past year and a half, particularly with Open Space Institute, has been a number of steps in order to prepare this for the two counties to take over ownership. So there are extensive engineering surveys. There's like 19 bridges on this corridor. There's been environmental studies, and we're now in a phase 2 environmental study of the corridor. Both counties have passed general resolutions of support. They did that in the fall, and we were very excited to get that support. Since then, we have been in discussions developing a funding package that would be, this is discussion with county and state officials. And the funding would be to identify state sources of funding that do not come from either local municipal budgets or from the county budget or from any of the COVID relief budgets. So those discussions are going on right now, and they're going very well. So we're excited and hopeful. And we anticipate that the closing, meaning the completion of the transaction to buy the right of way, will be completed in 2021. In order for that to happen, the counties really need to commit to doing this in this state budget cycle, which goes through till midsummer. So we've developed a campaign to show support for the Greenway. Hold on one sec, sorry. We have a website, the Essex-Hudson Greenway.org, which if you haven't seen, it's really fun. There's great drone footage of the whole corridor. And there's a tab at the top that says support. Under that tab, there's a digital letter, which you can sign. It's really easy. You choose whether you're from Hudson or Essex County. You can sign that letter as an individual or as an organization. And those letters are sent to all of the county commissioners and the county executive. And the letter basically says, thank you for passing the resolutions of support. And we want you to continue to support this project to completion. You can also send an organizational letter on your letterhead to county officials. We're encouraging that. And you can also sign up as a supporting organization if you haven't already done that. I know many of the people on this call have done that. And we have a list of supporters on the website. And there's a form on that tab that you can fill out to join the list. We're also continuing to do our outreach. So if you have other recommendations for other community organizations we should be talking to, we'd love to hear from you. And as you can see, Lauren Rushing's email is on all of these. Lauren is heading up our engagement, community engagement on this effort. So if you've got a cell phone on you, go ahead, go to the website, click on the support letter. It takes like 2 minutes to do this, and it's really made a difference, we've been told, for the county officials to hear about this, especially during COVID. It's very difficult to do capital projects like this, and the county officials need to hear that the residents, their constituents, really do support the project. That gives them a lot of oomph to get to the final phase of this. It gives them support politically to go ahead and commit to taking on the acquisition of the right-of-way. So thank you very much. Again, go to the Essex-Hudson-Greenway.org website and show your support now. And thank you very much for listening and having us at your meeting. And we're happy to answer any questions. And I've got one more slide here. This is my email, and Lauren's, and we're happy to hear from you. Please feel free to email us with any questions or suggestions, recommendations for further outreach.
Great. Thank you very much, Deb. Great presentation and hopefully inspirational for everyone. So I have placed that support page in the chat box. So please, as Deb mentioned, go there and sign the support letter. As well, I've also put my email there if you'd like to email me with recommendations. So I think the audience was being kind of quiet, but we're getting some more questions now. So I think we can just move into the questions section if you're ready, Deb.
Yep.
And for the
I share. Should we do that? Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And then to the co-sponsors, if any of these questions are relevant to your organizations, feel free just to pop in whenever. Okay. So the first question is, well, great job so far. And Deb, could you speak to the plans for how the trail would cross the Hackensack River? Currently, the drawbridge is permanently in the open position.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. Mike, that better not have been you. Okay. Yeah, the Hackensack Bridge is probably the most challenging of all of the engineering challenges that we have with this project. So we do have an engineering study. We have looked at some of the feasibility of the existing bridge. It's not very feasible as is, as you know. It's so it's the DB Swing Bridge. It's a infrastructure that was built in the mid 1800s. It's permanently open now in order to allow freight to go up the river. It's probably not in condition to be renovated or revitalized. So we are looking at different options for how to either rebuild or alternate options. And I know we've looked at different scenarios of how to do that. This is really has to be a conversation with the counties, probably, and New Jersey Transit as well, on what the best solution will be. It's certainly part of the conversation that has to go on for design. We don't have a determined solution yet, but certainly there have been different, including we have a landscape architect firm that's looking at some of the possible solutions. So you're right, it's the hardest one, and it'll be probably the most expensive one, but that doesn't mean it can't be done.
Okay, great. So the next question is about security. Someone asks, who's going to protect the Greenway from bandits? Bikes are valuable. What about the pests?
Yeah, we have had actually a couple of meetings, particularly people whose properties are adjacent to the Greenway are especially concerned with issues of security, but it's a general issue for the corridor. We have some security advisors that we are working with. They are going to be preparing a plan for security for the corridor to advise the counties. That would include interviewing local enforcement officers, getting a sense of what the history of use and problems are currently on the corridor. And because there's not a lot of public eye on it, there are places where lots of garbage has been dumped and people can do illegal activity. So having it be a public space with possible lighting, with eyes on, with the public there, and with enforcement will make it a much safer place. In addition, the ability to have internet infrastructure under the subterranean rights means that we can also have that to enhance enforcement. So local law enforcement will be able to have better access for camera, for communication, for what's the activity that's happening on the corridor. And as I said, we will be preparing a proposed security plan to the counties, and then it'll be up to the counties to figure out how they want to implement that.
Okay, thanks, Deb. And then the next question, I think maybe one of the co-sponsors could chime in for. It's a question about connections. Why does the Greenway not connect to the ferry or the Hudson River waterfront walkway? I guess the short answer to that right now is that the current right-of-way ends at Van Kuren and West Side Avenue. But maybe Maureen, you could speak to the connection with the embankment.
Well, the embankment actually is just a little hop to the Hudson River waterfront walkway. And years ago, we actually worked, Stephen Gucciardo is on this call, worked with the developers of developments along 6th Street, which the embankment is on, to take a tiny little walkway that was fenced in with a small sign that pointed to the Hudson River Walkway and turn that into a wide, welcoming access point to the Hudson River Waterfront Walkway. The city owns 6th Street, and we expect to expand the Harsmas Branch portion of the East Coast Greenway east to the Hudson River Waterfront Walkway. Also, the East Coast Greenway Alliance, and Bruce McDonald is on the call, can speak to the ferry. The East Coast Greenway, one of the designated sections in existence right now that's off-road is on the Hudson River Walkway. And the main route into Manhattan is by ferry. And then there's an alternate route that goes up the entirety of the Hudson River Waterfront Walkway to the George Washington Bridge and into New York. So that already is in existence.
Okay, great. Thank you, Maureen. Someone else asks about the plans to incorporate art onto the Greenway and when that may come into play for consideration. So maybe Deb, you could speak a little bit to the timeline of the project.
Yeah, we don't have a definitive timeline, but as I mentioned, right now what we're doing is making sure that the corridor stays intact, and that requires completing the transaction or the acquisition phase. So that's what we're focused on right now. Once that happens, and it has to happen this year in order to keep the corridor from being sold off in pieces, then the whole phase of the planning and design would begin. Communities will be part of that discussion, what they want to see on their section of the corridor. So the fact, as I mentioned, that there's this at least 100 feet wide in a lot of places means there's space for communities to talk about what kind of art programming, what kind of community identity pieces. There's just going to be a lot of opportunities for people to give input for what that might be. So if anybody's been in the High Line, you've seen, that's one way of looking at it. There's all kinds of rail trails around the country that have utilized murals, as well as sculpture, billboards with all different ways that communities have come up with very innovative ideas on how to not only have artwork displayed, but have something that represents the identity of their community. The timeline, again, is that would be part of the sort of design and programming phase. That would be a little later.
Right, exactly. So that'll come in the next phases of planning and design. And if you're interested in that part of the project and eventually being involved in that, I would suggest that you go to the website and you can put in your name and email information to be kept informed about the project. That's the best way to stay in the loop. Okay, so the next question is funding expected to come from the counties?
As I mentioned, we're putting together a funding package that would access state funds that are not being used currently as part of the county or municipal budgets. And I should also mention that we have Francesca Giranta here tonight from the county. Francesca,
hey everyone.
Francesca's head of planning for Hudson County. So we're really happy. She's been a tremendous support for this project. We're really happy to have her here tonight. And if you have questions for her, I give you to Francesca.
Thanks, Deb.
Yep, thanks for joining us, Francesca. All right, so this next question, I think maybe Rahid, you might be able to answer for us. Is the Bergen Arches considered a separate project from the Essex-Hudson Greenway? Who governs the Bergen Arches and funding for that section alone? And what group is in charge of it?
Right, yeah, so for the Bergen Arches, yes, it is a separate project from the Essex-Hudson Greenway, very similar in its characteristics from the fact that it's not an abandoned but underutilized railway section that's been taken over by nature. The Bergen Arches Preservation Coalition currently oversees that project. Right now, we're not really at the funding stage for that because the section is still owned by NJ Transit. So we're pushing for more support to get the embankment and Essex-Hudson Greenway projects to move forward so that there is more of a reason for the arches to connect to these properties, to push the railway entities essentially to use the space as a public asset rather than leaving it as an underutilized asset, as currently approaching it like as a temporary type use. But again, these spaces are so wide that so many things can happen inside of them and accommodate multiple uses. So right now we're working with the Essex-Hudson Greenway, the East Coast Greenway, the embankment project, trying to establish those greenway connections so that at least the foundation exists for this project to sometime happen down the line in the future, so that it benefits, future generations of urban activity throughout the city. If you want to learn more about the Bergen Arches, you can go to bergenarches.com. That's the host website for the Bergen Arches Preservation Coalition. I can also post it on the chat for everyone to access.
I've got it here. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, great. Let's see. So we also did have some questions that the co-sponsors sent in prior, so I think I'd like to go through a few of those as well. And the first is a good one. What happens to the rail line if the counties don't purchase it?
I'm glad you asked that. If the counties don't purchase it in the time we have before the purchase and sale agreement expires, then because of the abandonment status Norfolk Southern has gotten from the federal government, they will be able to sell pieces of the corridor for any kind of development. So they will have the right to sell that, and I believe there is interest in some of that. It's a highly valuable real estate in these two counties.
Right. So again, be sure to get on and send your support letter so we can get past this acquisition phase. Another person asks, how will the gateway at Jersey City connect with the neighborhood along St. Paul's Avenue? Currently, the streets off of Van Kuren are flooded and impassable most days. Kenko Park is right around the corner. So is there someone, maybe one of our co-sponsors, that's familiar with that area that could maybe speak to that point?
Your question?
Hi, this is Dawn. I'm the founder of Kenko Park. I posted the question.
Oh, it was you. Okay, great.
Yeah. So regardless of my crazy typing, I'm very familiar with that area. I know exactly where the power plant is. I know where the gateways is in relation to the power plant. My real question is, the community is located on St. Paul's Ave, a little further up by Tunnelly, but those streets that access Van Kuren from St. Paul's are filled with stormwater on a regular basis. They are largely impassable on most days. Is that area going to be renovated in some way or altered in some way? Because currently the only vehicles that can pass that area are really large tractor trailers, really big trucks.
It's a good question. I am hoping, we hope that the Greenway will help to push forward and give some momentum to addressing some of the issues in that area. It's a challenging area to make those connections between the Gateway to the Greenway.
There's 4 streets right there to St. Paul's, but like I said, they're largely impassable. There's a lot of runoff from the Pulaski Highway. There's a CSO outflow not too far from there. So I'm hoping that we can sort of stitch all the pieces together and create a more viable area there, and also make a connection to Canco Park. Canco Park is right around the corner, and it's small, but it is wildlife habitat.
Yeah, it would be a great connection.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the area just above Vancouver, where the corridor comes in at the very end, is very wide. And as part of the planning and envisioning that we're doing, we've been talking with different towns and cities about space for CSO underneath the corridor. So that particular section there is wide enough, and we have done some preliminary configuring of the possibility to have CSO storage under there in that section. So I don't know if that, is a solution to some of the flooding right near there, but it's certainly something that we're in conversation with the city about, and it's a possibility to do CSO storage under that right of way.
I'd like to pipe up here. Dawn's been doing a lot of work with the New Jersey Futures Streets and Sewers campaign. And Dawn, I would love to tour that area with you, and we can make that a sub-project in that campaign.
Would be my pleasure.
We did do this presentation with JC Start. So we've had some conversations both with the advocates and with the MUA, with the utility authority.
It's funny, I was actually late for the JC Start and missed that one because I was on another community meeting about the stormwater with New Jersey Future.
Oh, yeah, and I did meet with New Jersey Future about this too, but this presentation was much better, so you didn't miss anything.
Thank you so much.
And I also want to mention that we have met with the Environmental Commission and the Sustainability Office as well.
Yeah, and Dawn, there's a meeting. It was just postponed because I just got an email on it. There's an open space meeting
for the master plan. Yeah.
And I think this is one of the issues, like how to deal with this gap between where the Greenway comes in, the neighborhood there, how to make those connections that are viable. So I think your questions about flooding and sustainability for that neighborhood would fit right in.
Can you put some detail in the chat about the open space meeting?
I don't know if it's a public meeting. I'm only an invitee, but I can find out.
Okay, that would be lovely.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Dawn. Okay, so we are coming up on 8 o'clock. So I think I will read maybe one more question from the chat, and then maybe we can open it up to some of the co-sponsors for last thoughts and comments about the project.
And I'd love to hear people's feedback on this. I mean, it's so hard in Zoom meetings, and I'm just like staring at everyone's face to get a sense.
I know. Yeah, if someone wants to speak, you can also, if someone would like to speak, you can also raise your hand, use the function to raise your hand under the participants section. I'll go ahead and read one more question here. So Henry asks, due to the unpredictable nature of this effort, the main concern is making sure that it can happen. What exactly is the minimum requirement in order to avoid the worst case scenario of it being sold off? Is it a number of signatures? Is it support from every single county executive for each of the counties? What do we need?
Well, the signatures help, but the answer is it will require the counties to finally commit to the acquisition. And for them to do that, they need to make sure that there's support for the project, and also they're reviewing the funding package. So those two are the two big pieces that need to happen. These conversations are going forward. Again, it really needs to happen in this budget cycle so that we can complete the transaction by the end of this year.
If I could add to that question, do we already know whose support we have as far as the various counties, and or is that still all unknown?
Both counties have shown support. They've passed resolutions of general support. Both county executive offices are very aware of this. They're in conversations to support this. They're just going over some of the funding package, and it's this sort of period of they still haven't completed that process. So continuing to hear from constituents is important to them to make sure that there's continuing support. They'll be reviewing the financing package, and hopefully before too long we'll hear from them as to a commitment to take it on.
Yep. And as Deb mentioned earlier, we also have a list of supporting organizations on the website. So you can go there to see what organizations and commissions have supported the project. And if you're involved in an organization yourself that would like to become a partner or a supporting organization, you can email me, or you can go on the website, which I will post in the chat now. All right. Does anybody else have...
Your mayor has been very supportive of the project as well. So Mayor Fulk has been very actively supporting the project as well.
Right. Would any of the co-sponsors like to comment on the project at all, or have any final questions?
The presentation was I was just going to say the presentation was great. There's so much information here that's explicit to the questions that's on everyone's mind, and you seem to have answered all the ones that I have. So thanks so much again, Deb, for this. And Sustainable JC is doing everything we can to help support it. Just let us know what else you need.
That's great.
Pushing the word out, asking people to sign. I'm not sure what else we can do for you, but we'd like to do whatever's needed.
Yeah, that right now, that's the most important thing.
Okay.
We have social media posts that we can share with you. Again, getting the word out for people to sign those digital letters would be really helpful. It really gives us the foundation of support for the counties to go forward. Right now, that's what we need to be doing, and to continue to do further outreach. So your connections further in the community, either through social media or contacting us, get hold of other organizations to continue building this community engagement and support, is what we're really focused on right now. And that's what we need to do. So, and everybody's been really supportive here. A lot of the organizations, really thank you so much for all your support and signing up on the list of supporting organizations on the website. It really does make a difference. I can tell you right now that we have heard feedback from the counties that hearing from you all makes a really big difference in being able to complete this project. So thank you, and keep up the good work.
Can I jump in here?
Sure.
Sure.
I mean, I think this is such an exciting project. I'm a little troubled by the vagueness of the political strategy, and I hope it's out of ignorance rather than anything else. But a lot of us here have spent many years lobbying, advocating for parks and other kinds of progressive measures. And I'm still vague about how do we lobby the county? There are, 8 county commissioners, there's a county executive. Should we be organizing phone calls, meeting with them. Some of us know some of these people. It just seems a little vague. If it seems like such a big undertaking for the county to come up with money for this, that
Okay.
I think it's going to take a concerted effort. Maybe Francesca can give us a little heads up on where that stands. I know you're not on the political side of things.
Francesca, you want to take this?
Yeah, sure. Oh no, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. So yeah, I mean, I will say as Deb mentioned, the higher level county staff has been briefed on this for coming up on a year now. I think, it really is always helpful to hear from the public and directly to the commissioners, who would be the ones eventually voting on it, and maybe organizing some more, neighborhood level support, not just like the general advocacy groups, if there's, connections that you have to like the schools. Deb and I have talked about this in the past. Some of the neighborhood associations, say like in the Heights and the Journal Square area, the ones that haven't necessarily been involved yet. I think that would show kind of the varied and really diverse support for right now. The big question, and sorry to be vague about it, but is this like major funding legislation that we're supposed to have a decision on very soon. And that would really make things a lot clearer for the county to be able to make the commitment. And it's a state level decision. And so that's the real key piece. And I guess
Francesca, what do you mean by funding legislation? And that it's a state level funding legislation issue?
It goes back to this funding package that Deb was talking about. To be honest, I'm not sure how much detail I can go into it. But when it comes on to the state level of lobbying, that's not really my forte. So I would kick that back to Deb on that. If they're, when that kind of window will be to lobby at the state level.
Okay, so first of all, this is not coming out of the county budget, just to reiterate that. What we're looking at is a funding package that's under discussion from state sources. It would include some of the, because it's state funding sources, it would include some legislation approval for it. That's, Deb, what Francesca's talking about. This is all under discussion. Nothing has been decided yet. There's not a bill or something that we're asking you to support. That said, and Steve, to answer your question originally, we have created these digital letters to go to all of the county commissioners as easy ways for people to contact them with support. That said, if you have relationships with either your local town council people, state legislators, any of the commissioners, we encourage you to contact them directly and show and
Henry, you've got your...
So Deb, just a point of clarification. If this is being funded entirely by the state and it's not coming out of the county's budgets, is another way to say that is that it is free to the county to purchase this?
Well, free is
you know what I'm saying, Deb. So it's not a money issue.
We are trying to put together a funding package, and it's in discussion. So it's difficult, as Francesca said, to go into any further details. It's in discussion with county officials and with state legislators and the governor's office.
Okay.
So
okay, so it may cost the city something. It's not been finalized, and hearing from us that we really want this thing, given that it would seem that they do too.
Well, we're trying to put together a package that it does not come out of the budget. That is the goal. There are funding sources being identified, but it's in process. So the goal is to have that funding so it does not hit the county municipal budgets. And right now, the funding package we're putting together would do that.
Okay, great.
Is it premature to lean on assembly people?
No, you can certainly certainly tell your assembly people that you want this project to go forward, and whatever they can do to support that, you would like them to do.
Is there any possibility?
Sorry, go ahead, Yehuda.
Is there any possibility for federal involvement, especially with the new incoming administration, hopefully friendlier, and especially with the selling point that if all these connections work, this is actually could be an interstate transportation alternative?
Yes, it's a very exciting moment, isn't it?
Yes.
And I believe it was today that Pete was ratified as the new cabinet.
That's right.
Transportation. Yep. So that's an exciting moment for all of us, right? Yep. And we are, there's also a new transportation bill that's going to happen in 21 that will be up before Congress. So, and there's a lot of really good parts to it. So it's a really good environment, exactly like you're saying, to get new federal funding and possible interstate connections. We're not depending on that. The funding for this is for acquisition and for a good chunk to do at least the basic development of the line. That said, these projects have different levels of development, and there will be other, opportunities where there's different amenities, different things that we want to develop on the corridor, and we would be looking for federal funding for that. So it's a really good sign, and you're right. I think there'll be opportunities for towns and cities to apply for grants, as well as the county to apply for grants to continue to build it, and also to build it as a network, right? To connect to other greenways. There are other abandoned lines, particularly in northern New Jersey, that we're hoping would be developed with a longer range vision to have a network of these. And so, yeah, I think it's a really good moment. I think it's hopeful coming out of this dark winter of everything.
Right.
To see that, there's some attention being paid to, and the orientation towards national policy includes pedestrian and bike infrastructure and alternatives to, gas-powered vehicles, and transit. So all of those initiatives that both Biden and Buttigieg have talked about would definitely benefit this project and others like it going forward.
Yeah. Has Mikey Sherrill been has she been involved or been reached out to?
I actually have met with her chief of staff on transportation earlier. I know Mikey, worked on her campaign, so
Me too.
yeah, she's been a great supporter of this project, and of course, she's been a huge supporter of the Gateway Tunnel project, which is tied into this whole issue of getting funding for our area for transit as well. Yeah, so she's a big supporter.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Deb, if I could. Go ahead, Henry.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, a couple big picture questions because I'm aware of just like this huge undertaking and like the point of sale, just the amount, and I understand that on the federal level, that's where the support would expect it to come from. but does the point of sale have to happen by the end of the year, or just the commitment? And so that's one of the questions. And then also, as far as signatures, is it more about the quantity, or is it about specific connections and the quality of the letters? So, I've seen the letter, I've sent it out, both of them to both counties. But if I wanted to, I guess, change up the letter or encourage people to add their own personal experience on top of that, is that encouraged, or is it really just more so about the sheer number?
No, I think the latter. I think, the form letter makes it easy for a lot of people to sign. So that's why we do that. But first of all, you can customize that letter any way you want. You can edit it online, or you can send something directly through your own email. And absolutely, stories about your own experience and how this would affect you or benefit you, or the benefits that you see for the region. Any of those kind of stories are always, I think, helpful. Anybody who's in elected political office knows that the stories that people tell are really what they remember, what makes an impact. So I would encourage you absolutely to tell your story or your reasons why, and to communicate directly with your elected officials. We give you those letters to make it easier for a lot of people to sign.
Yeah, and the commissioners do read them, and I've had people tell me that they've received responses. So it's not just the blind sending of a letter. They actually do make a difference and are read.
The office. So the office is the one that, I guess, tracks the number of letters, or they get filtered through exactly who and where.
Yeah, the county offices, the executive offices does count letters that come in, and they also count phone calls a lot. There's usually a daily total that political offices will do, how many calls and what issues people are calling in about. So feel free to call, feel free to email them. It's all good, all of that, and the more personal the better. So that would be great.
I can confirm on my end that they receive them as well, because then I get questions. So they've definitely taken note from the commissioners and the CE's office.
Now I'm going to give you some motivation, competitive motivation here. So
this is what I was going to ask you, Deb.
Yeah, there's two counties, right? There's Essex and there's Hudson. So right now, Essex County is quite a bit ahead in terms of letters that are being sent in. So I think Hudson, and off of this call, could really up the game. And we do get counts. We actually have a count of everybody who signs in and sends in those letters. So we'll know who from Hudson is sending out the letter.
What's the scorecard? Tell us the scorecard.
You sure you want to know?
Yeah.
All right. The scorecard is, the last that I heard, there were over 1,800 letters that have been sent to both counties. And Hudson's coming in at about 450, 460.
Really?
So Essex County is kicking Hudson County's butt.
I'm not going to put it that way.
Well, I just did. So come on, Hudson County, let's go.
There's an opportunity here, Hudson, to up your game on this.
I work in Hudson. I'm filling out mine right now as we talk.
All right. All your friends, all your social media. That's why
I can post it to my book club in Jersey City.
There you go. It's
That's
easy
it.
to
Everything.
do the digital letter, and certainly any other further contacts with your elected officials. Any way you do, calling, writing letters from your email, any of that is really helpful, as Francesca has confirmed tonight. And I've had other elected officials also tell us they want to hear from you. They really do. And it helps them to make the decision, because they can go in and say, I got 1,600 letters. People want this. Let's do it.
Yep.
Right. And Patrick told me I'm supposed to tell you to take out your phones right now, right? Click on the Essex-Hudson-Greenway.org and just sign the letter. It's really easy to do. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope
Thank you.
it's really got you excited about the project and the potential. I mean, it's really about a future vision that we have and hold with the other preservation coalitions in Jersey City, with the 6th Street Embankment, with Burke and Arches, and with all of you from the various park preservation coalitions. So we're in this together. We're really excited about all your support, and it's could be a really exciting time, I think, for this kind of opportunities for sustainability in New Jersey. So thanks very much for your support and for your time tonight. And let us know if you've got any more questions or ideas about what we should do to get this project completed.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you.
Back
Thank you.
in a while, we'll talk about what kind of design and work we're going to do to actually create it. So
Great. Thank you.
good night, everybody.
Good night.